everyone, welcome to The Zest, the official podcast of Orange Coast Magazine. I'm Chelsea Ranieri, and today's guest is a world champion surfer, best-selling author, motivational keynote speaker, entrepreneur, and environmentalist. He's been called one of the greatest surfers of all time, as well as one of the most influential surfers of the century by Surfer Magazine. And you can see his name in Huntington Beach's Surfing Walk of Fame. He's inspired corporations with his motivational speeches, including General Motors, Google, and Disney. This year, he brought his positive wave tour to schools across Southern California, including schools in Huntington Beach, Seal Beach, Corona del Mar, Newport, and Laguna. Thank you so much for being here today, Shaun Tomson.
Thank you, Chelsea. It's great to be here.
Of course. So when I told my dad and my husband, who are both surfers, that I got the opportunity to speak with you today, they have been fangirling ever since. And then when I got to researching you, I've just been so inspired by your journey and also the code, which we will get into later. But thank you so much for doing this. I'm so excited to get to talk with you.
No, with pleasure. It's so nice to be on. I've spent so much time in Orange County over the years winning. I've won a few events down at Huntington and
Nice.
Just spent a lot of time around there. For a while, when we moved over from South Africa, we stayed in the Newport area. So a lot of good vibes, a lot of good memories.
Oh, wow. So you lived here for a period of time?
Yes, we did. When my brother and sister came over from the United States in the early 80s with my mom, they lived in the area for a while, yeah.
Oh, amazing. Well, speaking of South Africa, you grew up in Durban. Can you talk a bit about your first experience surfing when you were just 9 years old?
Sure. Surfing and the beach had been a part of my life. My earliest memories are of my mom and dad taking me down to the beach. My dad loved the beach. He was a champion swimmer, a champion a lifeguard as well. And then he was very badly attacked by a shark when he was about to go and compete in the Olympics. But he never lost this wonderful love that he had for surfing. So it taught me how to swim and surf about 100 yards. Or he was actually attacked while he was surfing when he was surfing on a little wooden board. But he never lost the love, but pointed out all the dangers to me when I grew up and taught me how to swim and surf about 100 yards away from where he'd had his terrible attack. So the ocean was part of my life. And then for the first time I stood up on a board, it was just this amazing moment. I mean, I can still remember the experience. And a lot of people kind of imprint onto surfing after that first amazing experience. And I did that when I was 9, and I've been surfing ever since. That was about 300 years ago.
Well, your dad sounds incredibly resilient. I can't imagine if I went through something that traumatic that I would be eager to get back in the ocean afterwards.
Yeah, both of them, my mother and my father, were very, very resilient people. My father had the very bad attack, and even though his arm had been ripped apart by the shark, he still maintained a very positive, optimistic life. My mom was born on the island, born in England, but then lived in her youth on the island of Malta in the Second World War, which was the most heavily bombed place in the history of the world. It was bombed by the Nazis and by the Italians, the fascists. So aerial bombardment, because it was a British strategic seaport. So she was also very resilient, very optimistic, very much a woman of faith. So I had two great parents who taught me a lot.
Yeah, they sound incredible. Well, you finished third in your very first competition. How did that moment shape your confidence as a young surfer? That's an incredible to place that high.
Yeah, it was a great achievement, especially when there was three of us. There was three of us. So for me, it was a big achievement, third out of three. But I always looked at it as not last place, but third place.
Yeah, definitely.
And I still maintain, I think it's important to maintain that positive outlook. And for anyone who's in business or an athlete, one has to just look at one's own performance rather than how one relates to the competition. Yes, competition is important, winning is important, but I think you need to build that self-esteem from a young age, and I did, and I never looked at my first event as last place. It was always like, people tell me, "Where'd you come?" I came third. I mean, there was only three of us, but I came third. So it's just really it's a matter of perspective. But I love competition. I love competing, and. My father. My father was fundamental to my outlook in competition. He would say to me, "Shaun, winning is easy, but it's hard to lose." He said, "When you win like a gentleman. When you lose like a man." And, he always had that attitude of when you lose, you got to be tough. And you've got to know that there's another event coming up. There's going to be another wave. So I always maintained that very, very positive outlook. When I was on the tour, I competed on the pro tour. I competed my first event in 1969, my last event in 89. So there was 20 years of competition. I never cried when I lost. I was never despondent. Yes, sometimes you would get depressed for a short period of time after a loss, but I was always looking forward to the next event, and I could compartmentalize that loss and just put it in a box and push it away and then look forward to the next event. I mean, that was my attitude.
Yeah. God, that's incredible. Well, speaking of all of your incredible successes, you became a world champion in 1977. And as I mentioned in the intro, you're regarded as one of the greatest surfers of all time. I can't imagine what that must feel like. But what were some of the defining moments of your career that helped you stand out in such a competitive era?
I think winning my first pro event, I was actually doing my military service. I was in the Army, and I was 17 years old. And winning that first event was very, very fundamental to my outlook on life. When I won that first event, it was really funny. There was this particular event drew massive crowds. This was in South Africa, 30, 40,000 people. It was the biggest crowd at the time for surfing events. And they had a big tower that they had erected on the beach. And my father had actually started the event. And they had this large tower. And I knew he was standing in the tower watching me. And the 6 finalists were gathered around this on the stage. And then there was thousands and thousands of people. And there wasn't instantaneous scoring. So they would release the results. They'd kind of build up this anticipation and release the results once all the surfers were there and the crowd was around and all the TV cameras were there. And I remember looking up at my father and going like, how have I done? Looking, that goes like this, thumbs down. And I was shattered because I knew that I was in a really good position. I was either, in the top 3. And then they started to announce the results. And they went, I can't remember who was in second place. And then they go, in first place, Shaun Tomson. And I just went like, and I looked at my dad, and my dad was cracking up with laughter.
Oh.
And, that's the type of sense of humor that my father had. But also, I think it's a great lesson for a young kid that winning is important, but it's not everything. And, here's my dad making a joke. It's sort of the very first moments when I was sort of in the winner's circle and won. So that was a great moment. Winning a very big event in Hawaii. It's called the Pipeline Masters. It's the most prestigious event in the world. You ask any surfer which event they'd like to win. It's a true test, I think, of courage, commitment, technical skill. And my father had come over to watch me, and South Africa was like right on the other side of the world. So it was a big thing. He'd come to Hawaii when he was recuperating from his shark attack. He visited a famous hand surgeon in San Francisco and then recuperated in Hawaii and met all these famous surfers called the Kahanamokus. It was a very famous surfing family. Duke Kahanamoku had actually won a gold medal for swimming in the Olympics. Anyway, so I'm on the beach and I won the event and he was there and it was wonderful. It was a wonderful moment for me and for him too. His Olympic dream never came true, but this was kind of a way for him to experience that. So that was a great moment. Those are perhaps two of the greatest moments of my surfing career. Winning the world title was great too. Winning in Hawaii, winning in the big events, and then I won the event that he founded. I won it 6 times in a row in South Africa. It became an international event. So competition was winning events was a great part of my surfing life, but it wasn't the only part. I got a tremendous amount of satisfaction from just surfing on a day-to-day basis and then exploring new techniques and maneuvers. I developed a new technique and way of riding inside the tube, which is the most exciting moment in surfing. And I think it's perhaps the most exciting moment in sport when you're riding inside this spinning cyclone inside this watery hurricane and the coral is just a few feet below the surface. and you're riding inside this almost like a tornado, and time has slowed down. It actually feels like time has expanded. You're in this state of flow. You're operating on instinct. And when you're surfing at your very best, you actually feel that you can curve that wall to your will. You almost feel omnipotent. It's this amazing feeling of the exhilaration.
Wow. I was reading about your signature style, and people were saying that when they first kind of saw it, I forget how they described it, but they saw you doing something different and they were like, oh my gosh, this is so unique. How did you develop that? How did you come up with that?
You never know where creativity comes from. And for me, it was like a functional aspect of my surfing. I'd be riding these very long tube rides, and you'd be inside the tube ride for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds. And then the tube would start to almost like bend around corners. So you'd had to develop a new technique for slowing down and for accelerating, and also for changing direction. So I started riding inside the tube, actually, instead of going in a straight line, maneuvering inside the tube, which was a very big breakthrough, I think, in surfing, and he's kind of laid the foundation for, what these incredible young surfers are doing today.
Yeah.
So, it was fun to be able to, create a whole new sort of technique and a new path for surfing.
Wow. Well, in the 80s, you launched your first surf brand, Instinct. What was the inspiration behind starting your own brand? And also, I read that you approached advertising and marketing in a way that was different from industry norms at the time.
Yeah. Well, Chelsea, these are great questions. So for me, the best moments, and for most surfers, if you ask any surfer, like, what's the best moment in surfing, they'll say riding inside the tube. It's just, I describe it. It's so exhilarating. And you're right there sometimes on that razor's edge between life and death, because the coral is right there, and it can be a very dangerous place to be, but it adds to the incredible excitement and exhilaration. So the best tubes, the very best ones, happen when your mind is clear, you're in a state of flow, you're riding on this inner rhythm, and you're operating on instinct. So that's why I called it Instinct. It was related to the purest moment in surfing, and that's the purest moment in sport, for any sport, football, baseball, basketball, you name it. The best times for all those sportsmen happen when their mind is clear and they're operating on instinct. So it was a very very emotionally connected name to create my brand around that. And then, because the name was about the experience, when we started our advertising, we wanted to connect surfers to the experience of surfing. Not to, generally the surfing at that time was you put a famous surfer on a beautiful wave doing a radical maneuver. And it was aspirational, but we wanted experiential. So what we did is we created these sort of vignettes of the surfing lifestyle, and we wrote beautiful emotive copy. So one of the most favorite ads was a group of surfers sitting, waiting for a wave, and all of them are looking out to sea, waiting for that wave. And the headline was, "Waiting for waves is okay. Some people spend their lives waiting for nothing."
Wow. I love that.
So we had these great ads. We had a picture of a group of guys. They were all changing. They were about to go for a surf. And the headline was, "Surfing is life. The rest is details." They've got boards and wetsuits. They got all the paraphernalia, but like, surfing is life. The rest is details. And, it became a very popular, you'd walk through like Walmart and people had ripped it off. Basketball is life. The rest is details.
No.
So, you could see that these sort of simple concepts resonated. We had a picture of of a surfer doing a beautiful, it's called a bottom turn. It's a fundamental maneuver in surfing, on a beautiful wave. And the line was, "This is why." And, everyone has knocked off this why, why concept, from Simon Sinek to, everyone else is looking for their why, looking for their purpose. And for surfing, it was that existential experience. So yeah,
Wow.
It was fun. And we've relaunched the brand. We relaunched the brand. It's been in stores for about a month. So it's so exciting to go down and check out stores and see the product in the shops. It's really great.
Well, congratulations. And I also read that it's the world's first social purpose surfwear brand. Can you elaborate on what that means?
Yes. So, social purpose has been fundamental to what I've been doing for the last 20 years. I lost my beautiful son, Matthew, when he was 15 and a half in 2006.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So that hit my wife and I, very, very, very hard. So I took my life down a completely different direction, a life of purpose. I started writing books and I started doing lectures at the largest corporations, schools, universities, jails, rehab clinics, all sorts of different groups. Every time I do a group, a big paid event for an organization. I mean, I did 2 big ones in Orange County a couple of weeks ago for a large data company and then one for a large insurance company. I'll do a school. I call it double shaka. Shaka is sort of a serving. I call it double shaka. And you do one and you give one. When I do my events, it's called writing your code. Everyone writes 12 lines. Every line beginning with "I will." It's a way to positively affirm your future. It's a way to commit to a positive future, and it's a way to focus and really think about the next wave that you're going to catch. It's 15 minutes, 12 lines. Every line begins with "I will." It's a way to find purpose. So I'm aligning what we do with instinct with this notion of getting people to write their code, find their purpose, find their power, and find their path. So what I do with schools and universities and all these hundreds of thousands of people I speak to, instinct is going to be intimately aligned with this concept. So the goal, get people to write their code, find their purpose, find their power, find their path, and create a positive wave of purpose and hope around the world, to unite the world, because the world is so broken and divided. Mm-hmm. You have Republicans, you have Democrats, you have a big valley in between. Mm-hmm. But when people write their code, yes, they write their purpose, but also they write their values. And the values are the same, whether you're Republican or Democrat, whether you're independent, we all have these same values. And what I've discovered, Chelsea, over the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that I've spoken to, and I've read, they write their codes and then they share it. The sharing process is amazing. I do this super high-tech sharing process. Anyway, our fundamental purpose in life is based on 2 lines of code that everyone writes. Everyone writes different lines. I'll have faith. I will do what I say I will do. I'll be a better husband. I'll spend more time with my children. I'll live a life of integrity. I'll have faith. People just write amazing words. But we only write 2 lines of code. How about this? So this is not hypothesis. Mm-hmm. This is not a professor at a university doing a study of 200 freshmen. I'm talking a data set of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. I've looked into the heart of America, and this is what people write. The 2 lines. I will be better. People want to be better. We want to be better. We have a genetic compulsion to be better today than we were yesterday. So it sounds so simple, and it is simple, but sometimes in this confused world, we lose touch with the essential simplicity that grounds us. So I will be better. What does that mean? That means, yes, you're going to have more faith. You're going to live a life of integrity. People are better in everyone wants to be better in their own way. but
Right.
you want to be better, whatever that better is, whether you want to spend more time with your children, whether you want to turn the phone off. So that's one half of it. We want to be better. The other half is I will help others be better. We want to help others.
Wow.
You have your podcast and you're inspiring people. You're helping them be better. You uplifting them. And people write these amazing lines. I will be the light in the darkness. I'll be a leader. I'll be a mentor. I'll be a volunteer. So when people write these lines, it's incredibly inspiring to oneself, and it helps you focus. But the real power comes when people share it. So when I do these events, personal, maybe one by one, people will stand up and they'll share a couple of lines, or I have this process where people can share it up on the screen. So the sharing process creates this connectivity in this disrupted, disconnected world. So you can see I love what I do. I love what I do. And I do so many events. My record is 4 in one day. So I do so many, Chelsea. I mean, tomorrow I'm going down, I'm doing 2 in the morning for this wonderful middle school in Redondo Beach. My Positive Wave tour that I'm involved with right now, I started it at Huntington Beach.
Oh my gosh.
Huntington Beach High School was the start of the Positive Waves tour.
That's where I went to school.
50,000 students. Great school. Wow. Great people. So I was doing a event for a big data center company called Cologix. Cologix gave away my book, my latest book. It's called The Surfer and the Sage, to each of the students. Gave away 700 books, $14,000 worth of books to the Huntington Beach High senior class. So, I try to bring these wonderful collaborations with companies, with the community, and with education. So it's a super fun process. And then I'm tying Instinct, my brand, in with everything that I'm doing. That's why social purpose.
Yeah.
But I'll help others be better too. So it's super great.
I love that. My biggest question is, so when how are you leading up to having the audience be so vulnerable as to write down all these different things that they want to improve and then also share it? Because I'd imagine there's some lead up to that portion of it.
Absolutely. And it is a very vulnerable, it's an incredibly vulnerable process. I say to people, when you stand up and read your code, you don't have to do it. But it's like, I've only had one person ever not want to do it. So if you have, like, say, a big auditorium and you've got 500 people in or 1,000 people, people share it anonymously. They share it they text me and it comes up on the screen. So it can be an anonymous texting. But when I do it with the students, this is what they do. So like tomorrow, I think it's about 1,000 students. So the students will hear me speak for 45 minutes. Then they go back to their classroom. And anyone, any educator that's listening, I love to do schools. So if you want me to do your school, just connect with me and we'll schedule it. So I speak for 45 minutes. The student goes back to his or her classroom. I've spoken to them about the process. They've got the worksheet. They've got a little code worksheet. So all the children sit together for 12 minutes and they write their code, 12 lines. Every line begins with I will. Now they've spent 12 minutes. Okay, usually about 20 kids in the class. Spent 12 minutes. They got their 12 lines. One at a time, they stand up and they read their 12 lines to all their fellow students. So now you've got empowerment, you've got connectivity, you've also got accountability. Because when a kid stands up and says, I will do what I say I will do, or I will be kinder, or I will be a team player, now they've stated that. Doesn't matter whether they're in a middle school or a high school, there's accountability. So now they've read their 12, stood up, read their 12, and they pick their best one. And it goes up on the board. If you've got 20 children, you'll have 20 lines of code. And that is, I call it the culture code. That's the culture of that whole classroom as represented other 20 students. Now, I do this with large corporations too. So this is a way to kind of identify the culture of the organization, because, in corporate speak, they call culture the unspoken assumptions that live within the walls. I like to think that my process are the commitments that hang on the walls. So it's different.
Yeah.
Mine is not hidden. Mine is open.
Wow. I feel like as the teacher or even as yourself, I feel like this would be a really impactful and emotional thing to hear people saying all these amazing positive things.
Chelsea, it's so emotional. I did it in a jail once, okay?
Oh my God.
I'm speaking to 40 tough guys. I spoke to the woman as well, but I'm speaking to about 40 really, really tough guys. But they want to learn because they want to get out of there, and they don't want to come back. They want to improve themselves while they made a mistake, and now they want to they want to improve themselves and hopefully become integrated back into society. So it comes to the biggest, strongest bloke in the whole jail there. He's a huge dude, and he starts reading his code, and he comes to the line, "I will forgive myself."
Oh, wow.
And he starts crying. Now I'm going like, what are all the other inmates going to do? Because he's shown this, you used the vulnerability word. It's like incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah.
And he starts, all the other prisoners, the inmates, they all gathered around him and started crying and hugging the guy. It was amazing how this process brought all these really tough guys together in a very kind, humanistic, vulnerable way. So this code, it's got incredible power, and I like to say this code is open source code. Anyone that's listening that wants to use it for a sports team, for their family, it's super fun to do with the family, whatever. Just go to my website, you download the worksheet free. It's open code, it can be used in any way. ShaunTomson.com, download the worksheet, kaboom. You can help your company, you can help your community. I mean, I've done it with government groups. Last week I was in Chicago, Kellogg Northwestern, like maybe one of the most famous business schools in the world. Everyone wrote the code, and then they stood up and shared it. It was amazing.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're doing such incredible work with the code. And then also I was reading that you've been a major advocate for environmental causes too, including your work with Surfrider Foundation. Can you talk a bit about the work you've done with them?
Oh, I love Surfrider Foundation. They do amazing work right across the world. The mission is to preserve and protect the world's waves, oceans, and beaches. It started in 1984. And when it started, one of the founders, Glenn Henning, phoned me up. He said, "Shaun, we would love you to be our first ambassador." And I said, "Sure, I'd love to." He said, "We really need an ad. We really need a cool picture of you surfing. And then we need you to write some copy." So I found this cool picture of me surfing at Pipeline. It's called the bottom turn, which is the fundamental maneuver in surfing, bottom turn. So I found the picture, and then I wrote the copy, "Do a good turn today." So that was like their sort of advertising slogan for a number of years. But also for me, it was it was like a North Star. Those words have become very foundational to me in my life. So that was the first time I connected with Surfrider. Today, we have millions of activist members around the world. We do so much great work to, protect the world's waves, oceans, and beaches. I do a lot of fundraisers for them. I just did one recently at the Rivian Theatre about 2 weeks ago. And all we had, I don't know, a couple hundred people there. All the admission fee went to Surfrider Foundation. The Rivian's a beautiful theater in Laguna Beach. So I'm doing a whole series of showings of this surf film I made, the documentary I made, co-produced a few years ago, called Busting Down the Door, and the proceeds go to Surfrider. So I love to do events for Surfrider. I love to get kids connected with Surfrider, and I love to get kids connected with the environment at a young age, because that means generally that they will maintain their love for the ocean and their love for the environment. And I encourage kids, just become a member. Maybe it's not Surfrider, maybe it's Sierra Club, maybe it's World Wildlife Foundation. Whatever it is, just become a member of a group that's bigger than yourself, and a group that's doing good for the planet.
I love that. Also, speaking of busting down the door, my husband, that is his all-time favorite movie. Just had to say that because I know he would be upset if I didn't. But well, looking back on your incredible journey, what legacy do you hope to leave behind for future generations of surfers and beyond?
People ask me, like, your surface code. My surface code's really, really important to me. I wrote that, and from that, with the loss of my son, I took myself down a different path, and I've realized that words are really, really important. The words of great leaders and sports figures certainly inspire us. They really do. They really inspire us. Whether it's Winston Churchill, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, JFK, these words of these great leaders and great writers and great poets inspire us. But our own words are the words that transform us. Our own words. When you write your code, those are your own words. Those are all transformational words, because the first two words are I will. Those words are words of absolute unequivocal commitment. It's not about today, it's about tomorrow, it's about the future, it's about change, it's about commitment, it's about positivity. And I really think the world needs the code today. I would like, ultimately, every single student at one time during their career to write their code. So for me, I think the code is my legacy. My code is surface code. Those are my words, 12 lines, every line beginning with one, I will. I wrote it in 15 minutes, 105 words. But I encourage everyone to write their own code.
Yeah, I'm going to do that today. I'm so excited.
Find your purpose, find your power, find your path. It's no matter where you are in life, it's wonderful to just stop, take 15 minutes. Those are your own time, it's your own words, and you write your future. It's super fun. It's liberating. It's cathartic. And I like when I talk to kids, I say, tomorrow, I'm going to talk to you about one thing today. I'm going to talk to you about power. Our words have got power. Our words help us find our purpose.
Yeah. Wow. Well, is there anything that you would like for listeners to keep an eye out for in 2025? Any other tours or anything they should keep an eye out for?
So this is a shout out to Orange County Schools. The superintendent of Huntington Beach, I think it's called Huntington Beach Unified, is a great guy called Rocky Murray. He used to be the headmaster at Huntington Beach High. He's now he works for the board. I think he actually creates the curriculum. But anyway, I've met with some amazing educators, especially over this tour, all the way from Santa Barbara. My son is 15 and a half. He's at San Marcos School here in Santa Barbara, all the way down to San Diego. A couple of weeks ago, I did an amazing school in San Diego. The kids go to school for 4 days a week. They work on the fifth day, and the money goes to pay for their education. It's an amazing concept. So I've met these incredible educators, these amazing schools that have just different educational models. And this is a shout out to the educators. You want me to come and speak to your school? You want me to blow your kids' minds? You want me to get them to write their code, 12 lines, every line begins with I will? We're going to create a positive wave right across Southern California. Phone me up, become part of the tribe.
I love that. So is it just through your website that they can contact you?
Go to my website, ShaunTomson.com. You can directly email me on that website, and the more schools, the better. I want kids writing their code. Find your purpose, find your power, find your path. Simple.
I love that. Well, we are coming to the end of our time, but before I let you go, I have 3 final questions for you that we call the Thoughtful 3. So first, when facing a challenge, how do you stay motivated to keep moving forward, especially when the goal seems distant?
So I'm going to take it back to the code. I wrote these words, I will always paddle back out. So those words are fundamental to me regarding three things. One is perseverance. Two is resilience. You take that big bad wipeout, get back on your board and paddle out. But three is hope. So those words are all intimately connected: perseverance, resilience, and hope. So that's what I do. I just think of my words. I carry my code around with me in my wallet, and every now and then I bust it open. And my words give me great power. My words are transformational to me in the same way that when everyone writes their code, they can find meaning, purpose, hope, resilience in their own 12 lines.
Wow. I love that. I love being able to just like go back and look at it when you're having a hard time.
Yeah.
And then how do you measure success today compared to when you were first starting out in the surfing world?
Well, I used to measure success as third out of three.
Yeah.
And then I had a very big contest in Hawaii. We had a terrible wipeout, and I was very proud of myself. I got 6th out of 6. So, I measure success today as happiness and kindness. And inspiration as well. You know, I have a little family. My wife and I have been married for 37 years.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. My boy is 15 and a half. You know, I have an amazing brother-in-law, sister. So, you know, for me, it's how can we maintain that love and connectivity with our family, and how can I keep that in perspective and really get out there into the world and help inspire people through the code and get them to write their own words of kindness, happiness, and transformation.
Wow, I love that. And then, well, lastly, if listeners could walk away with one key takeaway from this conversation, what would you want it to be? It's a hard one because there are so many good takeaways.
That words are powerful, and when you sit in front of a computer, make the decision when you're going to tap something out on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever it is. And here's a really interesting way to make the decision as to what to write or not to write. Kind or unkind. Because the world is filled with unkindness today. And you can be part of the solution to bring people together. And that's the decision you make, kind or unkind.
Wow. God, thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for doing this. I had so much fun getting to talk with you. And I'm so excited to go and write my own code and get even more inspired by that.
And get your husband to write it. So you write it together.
Oh, yeah.
Write it together with your husband. You write it. I don't know if you have children, but you write it, you write it together, and then you read it to one another. It's beautiful. Then you put it up on the fridge.
Oh, I love that idea. And only 15 minutes. Like everyone has 15 minutes. So that's so great.
It's simple. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for doing this. And I hope I get to talk with you again soon.
Chelsea, thanks so much for having me. You had great questions, and you have a wonderful, warm personality. And it was awesome. Thank you.
Of course.